A moment of passion. A stolen kiss under the moonlight. The sound of the wave scratching against the cruise ship as she whispered, "I love you," into another man's ear, not mine. I should have seen the signs, the lingering glances, the sudden interest in girls. Night out's the way. She clutched her phone a little too tightly, but I was blind foolish. I thought I had. Everything a beautiful young wife, a life of luxury, and the kind of love that lasts, but love wasn't what she wanted. She wanted excitement, a thrill, and on the very trip I planned to bring us closer, she brought him her secret Lavera man, her age, while I, the rich old fool, played host of my own betrayal. This is my story, a story of deception, a story of how I believe money could buy, love-astry of how the woman I gave everything to wanted more, an easy life with me and forbidden passion with someone else. Before I take you on this journey, I want to thank all my loyal subscribers for being part of this channel. Your support means everything. Make sure to turn on your notifications so you don't miss any new stories, and if you haven't subscribed yet, do so now, to help bring more inspiring and dramatic tales. Like this now, let's begin. The ocean stretched endlessly before me, shimmering under the golden sun. The cruise ship was a floating palace, luxurious, elegant, and meant to be the perfect place for kindling love. I had spared no expense. This was supposed to be a dream vacation for Sophia and me, a chance to escape the world and focus on each other. I thought I was giving her everything she could ever want, but I didn't know she had brought her real desire along with her. I met Sophia 2 years ago at a charity gala in New York. She was breathtaking. Long brown hair, striking green eyes, a smile that could make any man weak. She had this innocent charm, a kind of wide-eyed wonder, as if she wasn't used to places like that. Because she wasn't, she'd grown up in a small town in Georgia, raised by a single mother who worked 2 jobs just to keep food on the table. She wasn't born into money, and maybe that's what drew her me. I was a self-made man, someone who built an empire from the ground up. I had already lived through a marriage, raised children who are now adults, and buried a wife. I thought I'd grow old with Sophia was the fresh start. I never thought I'd have. When I met her, I wasn't stupid. I knew the age gap between us raised eyebrows. He was 56. She was 25. I had lived a full life. She was just beginning hers. But I convinced myself that love didn't care about numbers. She made me feel alive again, and I gave her a life she never dreamed of. She went from living paycheck to driving luxury cars and wearing designer dresses overnight. But she always told me she wasn't with my money. I believed her lately, though something had changed. She was distant, her laughter didn't reach her. He's the way it used to, and I often caught her staring at her phone with a secretive little smile. When I asked, she'd brush it off, just texting Amanda. She'd say naming one of her girlfriends. I ignored the gnawing feeling in my gut. I didn't want to believe that anything was wrong, so I planned a surprise, a 2 cruise from Miami to the Caribbean, a grand gesture to remind her why she married me in the first place. When I told her, she squealed with excitement, throwing her arms around my neck. "Are you serious?" "Oh my God, well, this is amazing." She kissed me deeply, and for a moment, I felt that same spark we had in the beginning. Maybe I was just overthinking things. She was happy, that's all that mattered, or so I thought. We boarded the cruise on a warm Saturday afternoon. The ship was breathtaking. Endless pools, gourmet restaurants, a private suite with a balcony overlooking the sea. Everything was perfect, but then something strange happened as we walked through the lobby. I noticed Sophia glancing around nervously as if she were looking for someone when we got to our room. She excused herself almost immediately. "I just want to explore a little," she said, flashing me a smile. "You don't mind, do you?" "Of course not." I said, "I'll unpack and grab a drink at the bar." She leaned in, kissed my cheek, and disappeared out the door. I didn't think much of it at first, but hour passed. Then, too, by the time she returned, the sun was already starting to set. Her hair was slightly messy, her cheeks flushed, and she had that same secretive smile, the one I'd seen when she stared at her phone back home. "Where'd you go?" I asked casually. "Oh, just walking around. This ship is huge," she laughed. "I think I got lost like 5 times. She talked fast, too fast, and avoided my eyes as she kicked off her heels. Something wasn't right. That evening, I took her to a camel at dinner on. The deck, the ocean breeze was warm, and the sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. It should have been the perfect night, but she was distracted. She kept glancing over my shoulder, checking her phone under the table, laughing at texts when she thought I wasn't looking. "Sophia," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "Who keeps texting you?" Her head snapped up. "What you've been on? Your phone all night." "Oh," she laughed, nervously setting it down. "It's just Amanda. She's freaking out because she and her boyfriend had a fight." I didn't believe her, but I forced a smile and nodded. Because what else was I supposed to do that night? As we walked back to her room, I noticed a man lingering near the elevators. He was young, late 20s or early 30s, tall, muscular, with that cocky air of someone who knew he was good-looking. His eyes flickered toward Sophia for just a second too long, and she looked away too quickly. It was only a moment, but my stomach twisted into a knot. Sophia had never been good at hiding things, and suddenly everything made sense. The glances, the texts, the way she had disappeared for hours earlier. She wasn't on this cruise alone with me. She had brought him. I didn't say a word. As we walked into our suite, I just smiled, kissed her forehead, and told her I loved her because now I had a new plan. I wasn't going to let this go. I was going to find out the truth, and when I did, there would be no going back. The night should have ended in our suite, wrapped in silk sheets with the sound of waves rocking us to sleep. That's what I'd imagined when I booked this trip. Instead, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the steady sound of Sophia's breathing beside me. She was fast asleep, peaceful like a woman, without a care in the world. Meanwhile, my mind was racing. I couldn't ignore the way she had looked at that man in the hallway, or rather, the way she had tried not to look at him. It wasn't just a random glance. It was recognition, a quiet, guilty moment that she hoped I hadn't noticed, but I had. And now I was left wondering just how deep this betrayal ran the next morning. I decided to test her. I suggested breakfast on the upper deck, a beautiful outdoor space overlooking the endless blue ocean. She hesitated just for a second before nodding. We sat at a small table, sipping fresh coffee, the sun warming her skin. I watched her carefully, observing every little movement, the way she scanned the crowd, the way her fingers tapped restlessly against the table. She was nervous, and then there he was, the same man. From last night he was sitting a few tables away, pretending not to see us, though I knew better. He was alone, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly, but his posture was too casual, too forced. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to stretch just to see what Sophia would do, and I caught at the flicker of her eyes, quick downward glance, the barely. Their smile she tried to suppress. It was confirmation. I wasn't imagining this, I said, casually, pretending to be deep in thought. You never did tell me what you got up to yesterday when you wandered off." She almost choked on her orange juice. What? I repeated my question this time. Locking eyes with her, she laughed lightly, brushing her hair over her shoulder. "Oh, I just explored. A little. Walked around the shops, looked at the pool areas. Nothing exciting." Nothing exciting. So why did she look like she'd just gotten caught in a lie? The moment breakfast was over, Sophia excused herself, I think. "I'll go get a massage," she said, standing up quickly. "I saw this spa on the second deck. It looks amazing." "A massage? How convenient." I nodded, playing along. "That sounds nice. Would to come with you?" Her eyes widened for half a second before she forced a smile. "Oh no, you don't like spas. I'll be quick." "I promise." She leaned down and kissed my cheek, then practically rushed away. I waited exactly 10 minutes before, following. I wasn't usually the kind of man to spy on my wife, but I had learned something valuable over the years. When something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. I walked to the spa, peeked inside. No sign of her. I checked. The pool, area, the shopping deck, even a small casino on board. Nothing. Then as I turned the corner near a private lounge area, I heard laughter, a woman's laugh. Her laugh and a man's deep voice responding in a hushed, intimate tone. I stopped in my tracks, pressing myself against the wall. Just before the entrance, my heart pounded in my chest as I listened, my fists clenching at my sides. "You shouldn't be so nervous," the man said, playfully. "No one's watching." Sophia giggled. "That's easy for you to say." Silence. Then the sound of a chair scraping against the floor. I knew I should walk in. I should confront them. But something in me wanted to wait, to see how far she would go. I edged forward just enough to peek inside without being seen. There they were. Sophia was leaning against a small table, her hands fidgeting with the hem of her dress. The man, her secret lover, stood in front of her, one hand braced against the wall beside her head. "I missed you last night," he murmured. She blushed, biting her lip. I couldn't sneak away. He would have? Not as the man smirked. "Well, we have time now and then." Before I could even process what was happening, he leaned in and kissed her, a deep, slow kiss, and she let him. Kissed him back. I felt like the air had been sucked from my lungs. I'd expected betrayal, but seeing it unfold right in front of me, it was like being stabbed in slow motion. This wasn't just some harmless flirtation. This was full-blown infidelity. I turned away before I did something I regret as much as I wanted to storm inside to grab that little punk by the collar and throw him overboard. I knew better. I was a businessman, a strategist. This wasn't the time for an outburst. This was the time to think. I walked away, my mind racing with a new plan. Sophia thought she was sneaky. She thought she could play this game without consequences. She was wrong. I wasn't just going to catch her in the act. I was going to make sure she regretted every single moment of it. I spent the rest of the day playing my role, smiling, holding her hand, acting like the loving husband she thought she was fooling. But inside, I was boiling. I wasn't just angry, I was calculating. Sophia thought she was sneaky, thought she was playing a game behind my back. But the truth, I had just become the dealer at this table, and I was about to stack the deck against her. I returned to her suite, pouring myself a glass of bourbon. The warm burned down my throat, did nothing to quiet the storm. Raging in my chest. When Sophia finally walked in, an hour later, she acted as if nothing had happened. "Hey, baby." She kissed my cheek, dropping her purse on the dresser. "How was your afternoon?" I forced a smile. "Great, just relax by the pool." She grinned, kicking off her shoes. "That sounds nice. My massage was amazing." I almost laughed. Massage. Huh. That's what they're calling it these days. I let her believe. I was oblivious. It was easier that way. I had work to do. I needed proof, not just for me, but for when the time came to rip the mask off her little charade. So I did what any man in my position would do. I became a hunter. The cruise ship was big, but not that big. People gossiped, workers noticed things, and with enough patience, the truth always came to light. I started with the staff, a few well-placed questions here, a casual conversation. There, I even slipped a bartender a 100 bill, asking if he'd see my wife with anyone else. He hesitated, but money had a way of loosening lips. "Yeah," he finally said, "she's been meeting with a younger guy he's been tagging along on the trip. They are close." That was all I needed to hear next. I found the ship's security office money talks in places like these. I had no problem slipping another couple of $100 bills into the hands of a guard. Anyway, I can get some footage of the ship's lounge areas. As my wife lost something valuable, and I'd really like to help her find it. It was a lie, of course, but within minutes I was watching grainy security footage of Sophia and him, the little rat seat. Brought along, they weren't holding, hands weren't kissing, but the body. Language was undeniable. The secret, glances the way she leaned in when she spoke to him, the way he touched her waist when they walked together. I clenched my fists. She had no idea that their game was already lost that night. I decided to push her further. I took her to dinner, an elegant Camelot restaurant at the top deck of the ship I ordered, her favorite wine smiled at. All the right moments told her she looked beautiful and all. The while I watched, her waiting. It didn't take long halfway. Through dinner, she excused herself. "I'll be right back," she said. "I just need to freshen up." I nodded, sipping my wine. "Take your time." The moment she walked out of the restaurant, I followed. She didn't go to the restroom instead. She turned down a hallway, glancing over her shoulder to make sure no one was watching. I kept my distance, my heart pounding. She took the stairs down to the lower deck where the private lounge rooms were, and then, without hesitation, she slipped into one of them. My hands clenched into fists. That was it. That was the final nail. In the coffin, I took my time. I didn't want to rush in like an emotional fool. No, I wanted to hit where it would hurt the most. So I waited 10 minutes. 15. Then, finally, I walked toward the room. The door wasn't fully closed, just slightly ajar enough for me to hear them. I hate. Sneaking around, Sophia's voice murmured, "I wish we didn't have to do this," the boy. Loft an arrogant, cocky sound. Come on, it's exciting. You love it. I do, she admitted. But William, if he ever finds out, he won't. That was my cue. I stepped inside the room, went dead silent. Sophia gasped, stumbling away from him. Her face went completely pale. "William," she breathed. I can explain. Why-dee-dee. Out, a quiet chuckle, a bitter, humorless sound. "Oh, I'm sure you can," I said, shutting the door behind me, "but you won't need to." I pulled my phone from my pocket, holding up the screen, the security footage. Played silently, the grainy black and white images of her and her lover, walking together, sneaking around. Sophia's face crumbled. She knew this was checkmate. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. Her lover, the pathetic little boy, she thought, was worth ruining our marriage for, stood frozen, his eyes darting between us. I turned to him, tilting my head. "So this is the guy," I said, my voice highly calm. "This is who you threw everything away?" For Sophia whispered my name. "Please, let's talk about this." Privately, no, my voice was sharp, cold. "We're done talking." I stepped closer. Lower my voice. "I gave you everything." "Sophia," I said, "everything. And you threw all away for this." Tear swelled in her eyes. "Willem M." I didn't let her finish. I turned around and walked out. The door, leaving her and her lover standing there in stunned silence, and just like that our marriage was over. I didn't look back as I walked out of that room, leaving Sophia and her boy toy behind. A strange sense of calm settled over me. Not relief. No, it was something darker. The woman I had loved, cherished, and provided for had never true been mine. She had just been waiting for the right moment to betray me, and now she had succeeded. Or at least she thought she had, because what she didn't know was that I wasn't done yet. I went back to her suite, packed my things, and ordered another room far away from hers. I wanted her to come back to an empty space. I wanted her to feel the weight of what she had done. And just as I expected, it didn't take long for her to come running. There was a knock on my door an hour later, a desperate, frantic knock. "William, please open the door. I'll let her knock." Let her beg. Then, finally, I opened it. Sophia stood there, eyes red, mascara running down her cheeks. She looked wrecked. "Good. Please," she whispered, "just talk to me." I leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Talk," I said. Voice cold like how you talk to your little boyfriend. She flinched. I made a mistake. I let out a dark laugh. A mistake, I repeated. No, Sophia. A mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is spilling coffee on a contract. This eye gesture between us wasn't a mistake. It was a choice. She reached for my hand, but I pulled away. I love you, she said, desperately. I never wanted to hurt you. Save it, I snapped. You snuck around with another man. You humiliated me, you used me. She shook her head, tears spilling down her face. No, I swear. Shut up, I said, my voice like steel. She froze. I had never spoken to her like that before. Tell me one thing. Sophia, I continued. My jaw clenched. Did you really think you wouldn't get caught that? I was just some old fool who'd never figured out she stayed silent? That was enough of an answer. I didn't mean for this to happen. She whispered, her voice breaking. I got caught up in something, and I didn't know how to stop. I laughed bitterly. Oh, you knew how to stop. You just didn't want to. She wiped her face, desperate. Now I swear I was going to end it. I just needed time. I scoffed time. For what, to sneak around some more to decide whether your rich old husband was still worth keeping. She bit her lip, looking down, and in that moment I saw it. The truth, she wasn't saying she had been deciding, trying to balance between her comfortable life with me and her lust for a younger man. She had never planned to leave me, no cheyenne of the best of both worlds, but now she had neither. I stepped back into my room, looking at her one last time. This marriage is over, I said firmly. When we get back to shore, I'm filing for divorce. Sophia's eyes widened in horror. No, William. Please, I don't want to lose you. You already did. I slammed the door in her face. For years, my life had revolved around her. I had built a world where I was the provider, the protector. And now I had to tear it all down, and so as the sun rose over the vast ocean, I made a decision. It was time to move on. By the time I stepped out onto the deck, Sophia was waiting for me. She looked like a mess, hair, unbrushed, eyes swollen still, wearing the same dress from last night. William, please, she pleaded the moment she saw me. I sighed. What do you want? Sophia? She stepped closer, hands trembling. I made a mistake. I know, I don't deserve your forgiveness. But please, just give me one chance to fix this. I looked at her carefully for the first time. I didn't see the young, beautiful woman I had once been infatuated with. I saw a liar, a manipulator, and most of all, a woman who is only sorry because she got caught fixed with Sophia. I asked coldly, you didn't trip and fall into another man's bed? This wasn't an accident. This was a choice. Tears welled up in her eyes. I love you, William. I swear I do. I scoffed. No, you don't. You love my money. You love the life I gave you, but me, you haven't loved me in a long time. She shook her head violently. No, that's not true. Let out a bitter chuckle. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have snuck around with another man. You wouldn't have humiliated me. Her lip quivered. I'll do anything. William, please, I'll cut him off. I'll prove it to you. Just don't leave me. He stared at her for a long moment. Once, those words might have swayed me, but now I was done being fooled. I already left you, Sophia, I said quietly. You just don't want to accept it. As I turned to walk away, I noticed something. People you are watching. Other cruise guests stood at a distance, whispering. I saw the way they looked at her, judging, gossiping. And I realized something. She wasn't just losing me. She was losing the status that came with being my wife. Her biggest fear wasn't losing our marriage. It was losing the comfort, the wealth, their respect. And now, she had none of it. He kept walking, leaving her there, humiliated for the whole world to see. The moment we docked, I had my lawyer on the phone. I want a divorce. I told him, firmly, no. Second chances. He didn't sound surprised. Understood. and the prenup, a cold smirk, crossed my lips. She get. Nothing for days. Sophia bombarded me with calls, texts, emails. Please, William. I'll be better. I don't want anyone else, just you. I'll do whatever it takes. Ignored them all until one day she showed up at my house dressed in inelegant. Black dress makeup perfect here, ye's shimmering with fresh tears. She looked exactly like the woman I had once fallen for, but I wasn't the same man. Any more William, she whispered. I know, I don't deserve you, but please just give me one chance to make it. Right. I looked at her, truly looked at her, and all I felt was nothing you already had. Your chance, Sophia, I said simply, and you threw it away. She started crying again. I love you. I shook my head. No, you don't? And with that, I closed the door in her face. That night, for the first time in a long time, I slept peacefully because for once I wasn't living in a lie. Sophia had betrayed me. She had broken something that could never be fixed. But in the end, she was the one who lost everything. And me, I was finally free. Well, that concludes William's painful yet empowering story of betrayal, heartbreak, and redemption. Thank you for watching the story of my journey in life. If you enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications for more captivating stories.